I got your book ahead of time, and it is just delightful and beautiful. And I have so many questions that popped up as I was reading it. We're going to get into all of that and relating it back to living this human experience in a modern goddess sort of way, the modern goddess archetype. But before we go there, I want the listeners to really get to know you and who you are and where you're at in the season of your life. Is there a word or a phrase that you're really embodying right now?
Ah, yes, I love it. Thank you so much. I am feeling comfortable in the uncomfortable. That will be for me. And for you?
For me, it's becoming. I am in a process of expansion and testing the limits of what I can do in my body, as a human, in my thoughts. And so becoming is where I find myself most often these days.
Oh, those are powerful. Okay, Angel, I need to ask you first. We are living in a world that is very uncomfortable right now. And it's really hard for the nervous system, for our mindset, for our bodies, our being, our soul to really just let go and be
Mm.
comfortable there. How are you doing that a little bit more effortlessly, or at least to help with forward transformation in your own evolution?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Tansy. A lot of surrender, a lot of acceptance. I am beginning to understand that nothing is coincidental, that everything truly does happen for a reason. And that is true in my life, in every day of everything that I do, but also in the larger organism that is this planet. And so when I look at that, I always try to understand what is the reason behind all of this? What's the lesson to be learned? And I've tried to apply that thinking and that approach to everything that I am experiencing right now. And what it does, it gives me comfort, right? And I mix many things. I mix also my belief in a higher power, a God, the universe. And I always ask myself, well, God is not just with me sometimes, it is with me all the time.
Yes.
It is with all of us all the time. And so when something happens, it is part of a larger plan, even as uncomfortable as it might be. And so that gives me an incredible amount of peace that I am part of something much greater, that my experience is part of something much greater. And it really does make a huge difference in the way in which I am experiencing the world right now.
Mm, yeah. And Rocio, as you were saying that, all I could think of was those times where I feel like I am really in the wind of turmoil, in the middle of that whirlwind, and I feel so alone, and I forget that I'm not alone, that God is always not just with me, but also within me.
Yes. Yes. The same happened to me. When I when I see what is happening, and that's why it's so important to have tools to really go back to the most important is to take care of our vibration and to ourselves. And in that's why you need to begin to be really conscious to take care of yourself, to go out in the world and have these interactions from a perspective and from a place of how I can support someone else, how can I support myself. And that's all the tools that we are sharing in the book. Because it's like how you come back to really be centered and don't react. So you take those 2 seconds to release. No, no, this is what this person is showing me is only a mirror. So I understand. I really interact in a different way. So when I feel really lonely or I sit down to journal and then I focus my attention in what are the beauty in the world, where it is. And I begin to see it one after other and after other. So that is so important that we have this awareness.
Well, that's just it, isn't it? A
Yes,
mirror and taking care of your vibration and how you are in the world. That's really the premise behind your book.
yes,
Yeah,
It's,
yeah.
it certainly is. It is, the book captures what we were experiencing as we were, and there are many words for it: awakening, transforming, expanding. And as we would get up every single day, it was a process of about 2 to 3 to 4 years in which we just deep dove into ourselves, right? And we created this space through the lessons we were learning, the classes, the spiritual psychology, the hundreds of books that we were reading, that there was this space of love and understanding and compassion. And as we were experiencing it, Tansy, I'm sorry, as we were experiencing it, we would look at each other, and that helped a lot. We would look at each other and say, "Are you feeling the way I'm feeling?" And so that helped validate it, that it was real, that it was just, "Oh, I'm really happy today." It was profound. And one day, Rocio gets up and says, "We have a background in entertainment. We come from a corporate careers in sales of content and so on. We've traveled the world. We've been privileged to really have deep experience there." And so when she said, "Let's do a television show," it didn't sound ludicrous. It was a perfectly good idea. But at that moment, something else came, another thought came, and it was, well, but before we do, we need to tell a story. We need to tell the story that's going to become the television show. So why don't we write a novel? Which, by the way, is not something we had ever done before.
Oh, oh, yeah. Well, the 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 book is called The Orchid. And first, I would love to say the Orchid is a place that I really wish was a real place that I could visit. As you described in the beginning, we're going to be talking about the book today. We're going to be talking about some of the premises behind it and how it relates to real life and how you've expanded and how you've grown and how you used it in your own real world and how it
yes.
presented in the novel. But I wish that the Orchid was a real place that I could visit. It felt like a portal to somewhere that I've already knew in my soul.
Nancy, can we
Yeah.
just pause for a second and let
Yeah.
the universe hear that? We wish so too. And so many people like you have said the very same thing. So it's out there now, and
Good.
so shall it be.
I feel like that's just the expansion of your work. And that should now be the next part of the book, right? The actual real place.
That would be, yes,
Yeah.
it's
Yes.
Yeah.
coming, it's
Yeah.
coming.
It's
Mm.
certainly, the manifestation has begun.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and the characters, they're so vibrant, they're so real. And I want to start there. I want to start with the characters. I'm curious which character each of you really resonated with, because for me, it was Olivia all the way. I felt Olivia in my soul. And so
Wow.
I would love to hear which character really maybe either was a representation of yourself or maybe a culmination and that you resonated with the most after the novel was written.
When we were doing it, I was the five women at one point. We have the we have the five women because at one point I was living with Angel, and he is a
We've
guy.
been we've been married for
We've been
23 years
together
and
for,
together 25. Yes.
yes. And during all this time, he was a guy who always saw the glass full, and I was almost empty. So at one point, I was really searching for what is forgiveness and how you can really transform and real to do what I can explain to do the real alchemy. So at one point, the characters, I was really, at one point in my life, I was much like Sophia,
Mm.
but then because is when you are in survival, you need to go out in the world really, and sometimes you are alone and you don't have no one who is helping you, right? But then never is enough. And that's Sophia, no, Olivia. That is incredible woman, fantastic, but still has some things to clean. And at one point, my mom was a single mother with 4 kids. And I saw how little by little she was really let go her dreams and aspirations. And it's like all of them, by one, they have something that we have. And you are not alone. I've been seeing my friends there too. And that's why this book is for them. Is the book that I wish I have in my darkest moment, to understand how to go out from that. And that's why after 30 years of looking and try to research and go around the world, I was feeling for first time ready to really sit down in front and say, I have something to say. And I found a solution that maybe help you and bring something to you, and you can use it. And that's why we did this book, because I wish I have something like this, or my mom has something like this when she was really passing for very challenging moment. So that's why we did it with so many tools.
When we first started, really it was going to be the story of Sophia, which was very close and inspired by Rocio's story. And at some point, it seemed like it wasn't enough. We wanted to tell more stories. We wanted for it to be more relevant to more people. So, and we were working with another person who was helping us, a ghostwriter, to help us craft the characters and the story. And she said, no one is going to believe that all these things happen to one person. So we're going to have to create more characters. And at some point, the characters are us, right? So you have Sophia, who's angry. I'll admit, Rocio's a little bit or was a little bit angrier at the world than I was. I've been somewhat at peace with it for a much longer time. There is Stephanie, sexually abused. I was sexually abused as a child. Rocio was sexually abused as an adult. So we wanted to capture that. Plus, we wanted to also honor our time in Asia. We lived 6 years in Hong Kong. And it just felt like grabbing a character that was from Asia was important for us. Olivia, you've mentioned, who hasn't been at the top of their game and only looked at all the little bad things that are taking place, right? And then you have Jennifer, divorce, dealing with the aftermath of that experience and trying to be a good mom and working. We both come from single moms.
Yes.
And then there is Nicole. We're not gay, but we've hidden parts of ourselves from people in order to be accepted so many times through our lives. Who hasn't? And so all of these women represent us. We're really just telling that story through the eyes of really 5 amazing characters. And of course, there's Mary. Mary is who I want to be. Mary is who I want to become. But I think Mary is who we are all slowly becoming as we become sure of ourselves, as we heal our wounds. And so that's how we got started. In the beginning of the story, I was more Mary.
Yes.
I carry a lot of wisdom that I never understood, but I would repeat the saying, life's 10% what happens and 90% how you react, like many times a day. And Rocio was the women. And that dance between the two was so beautiful because that's how we captured it. But I'm so excited to say by the end of the book, I remember one day we were sitting down where Rocio was just crying and having one of those cleansing moments. And I said, oh my gosh, do you realize you're becoming Mary? You're embodying her. And so that was the experience of writing it from the perspective of these women as we were doing it for 2 years.
So I love that you brought up Mary right away, because that was one of the big questions that I had. She was the founder of the physical location, the orchid. And as I was reading it, I felt like she wasn't just woman, but more of an archetype. I felt like she was this living embodiment of the concept of the phoenix rising from the ashes. And so, and so I really loved her as this role model, for lack of better words, of how to really expand and be in that depth of wisdom, coming from a place of so much trauma, hurt, and obstacles, and yeah, just trauma. And so my biggest question with her was that intentional? Was it intentional to have her as that kind of phoenix coming up from the ashes to be that representation of moving forward?
There's so many ways to answer that. I will tell you, Tansy, that we were channeling something.
Mhm.
And in a few occasions, we've gotten the feeling that it was the spirit and energy of Mary Magdalene. Um, I get teared when I speak of it. Um, so to say that it was intentional, it's too strong because not by the human mind, if you will. Um, but what was intentional was to demonstrate that what we were feeling, there was healing going on.
Mhm.
And what we saw is that when you healed your wounds,
Mhm.
no matter how deep, how far, they stop hurting. And you can look at the world with different eyes. And when someone is sitting in front of you, either speaking of their wounds or throwing salt at yours, it feels different. You don't have to react. You don't go into that automatic pilot to attack, to defend, to protect,
Mhm.
because you're healed. And so that's what Mary, for me, as I was involved in her development, in becoming her, in presenting her to the world, that's what she was really there to represent. We can all heal. And something stuck with me. I've heard many times, Jesus wasn't the exception, was the example. And so Mary represents that example of what we can become. It is possible to heal your wounds.
Which is why her name was Mary too. And I have to say, I have to say, this makes me feel a little emotional too, because out of all the characters, I really like there was just an energy about Mary in the book that drew me in, and just I felt more peaceful whenever there were pieces of her stepping forward in that storyline. And you don't even know this, but Mary Magdalene, I love her so much. Like she is, out of all of those goddess representations, those archetypes, she is the one that there's just something about her that I connect with her. And yeah, this doesn't surprise me. And so I got chills when you said that.
Mm.
Oh, I love it.
Yes. Yes.
Well,
Yes.
throughout the entire book, there's just this beautiful thread, this invitation to really come back home to ourselves through awareness, through truth and forgiveness. What does this really mean when we're trying to unlock the hidden code of a modern goddess? And why is this message really important right now? Why this book right now?
Is because in the moment that you begin to see and understand your emotional wounds and heal them with love proactively, without judgment, using the tools that we share in the orchid, you stop living on autopilot. And as you grow, you begin to feel more clear and align your thoughts, your words, your emotion, and your actions. You gain confidence and greater control over how you perceive and respond to life. And from that place, you acquire inner strength that allows you to flow through life with more freedom, power, and ease. That's the secret code of modern goddesses.
Mm. Mm.
In the middle of our writing, and something that we learned along our different lessons and teaching was all the answers are inside of you. You come programmed with the lessons and the answers. We're the ultimate teachers. We're gods, right? We're not the God. We're pieces of it, made in its image, and we have aspects of it that are inside of us. So what you're describing, that's what we were trying to do. It was we can change. We actually have more control than we have been led to believe. And you can live a spectacular life when that falls in place.
That's so empowering because, when we think about the goddess archetype in general, we think of this outside being, this outside entity, this outside energy to connect into. And all of that is so beautiful. But the real modern goddess is really what we're doing within ourselves to heal, to step up, to stand up, to move forward and create change in this world, not
Yes.
just necessarily in the grandiose world example, but even in the world just within your homes, your familial structure.
Yes, it's so important in the moment that you have a glass and your glass has an issue, for example, and you are looking your life with these glasses. In the moment that you heal, it's like you remove those glasses and you begin to see the world like in a different way. And it's like I'm gonna put my empower, my out of the way glasses, and really you begin to see, oh my God, I can do it. I can do it now. I'm in charge. Though to do it, the past doesn't stop me to being. So, but it's important that we have these conversations for more people to understand that we need to really go to our past, learn, love, heal, and then be in the present moment from a place from empowerment, creativity, and abundance. So when you begin to change, Tansy, in my case, was me, and then I became a better person in general, and then a wife, and then a mother, and a friend, and I can collaborate with more people. So it's really the circle is a spiral that grows and grows, and then the signal that you send from your heart to the world is a signal of empowerment. So what the life is begin to send you is begin to send you good moments wherever that you want to experience. And that's why it's so important to be ourselves, originals. Don't copy anyone. Go and do your essence because your essence is unique. And when you feel better about yourself and we understand that everyone is different and all these basic rules, we live with such ease and nothing is against us, is in favor of us. So it's really, that's a fantastic experience.
Rocio, I want to know, what was that moment that your glasses came off and you were seeing something different?
3 years ago, Tansy, for first time, I love myself. Was the first time that I understand that I was my worst enemy. No one speak to me the way I speak. And in that moment, I begin to play this game in my favor. So it's like I'm not perfect, but then I have compassion. And then I make a mistake and can say, I'm sorry. So all this in that moment was like revelatory, really. And I only can tell anyone, you know, I was really looking. My mom died when I was 20, and I want to go out of the depression and all the difficult things that I have. And I was looking and looking, but I didn't find like was not in one place to explain me all. So that's why we did the book to try to explain at least the basic. You know, don't go and look outside because society tells you you need to have a university, then you need to have the work, then you need to have a husband, then you need to have a house, and then the kids. And it's like but it's always outside. And when I discovered that it's not outside, but it's inside, for me was a game changer.
Mm.
And it's, okay, now it's about myself and what I want to experience in life. And if I can want to experience a cuddle with my kids, and so I begin to work on that, and I can manifest everything that I want to experience. And I think is is the way you are doing it too.
Yeah. Yeah, but I tell you this, I I was flowing through life, but I was not experiencing it. Somehow it came easy. I did an Akashic Records reading, and it was explained to me that my masters were laughing. My guides were laughing because he came in with the wisdom. He said he was do that,
Don't
but
they
that he
always do
didn't
that though? They're always back there just kind of chuckling. I know.
like
Yeah.
and
These
he's
humans are
complaining
so
now.
funny. These humans are
Exactly.
so funny.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what I was told is you came in with the wisdom, but not recognizing that you had it. And so it was interesting because for me, the process, Tansy, was that I was observing her shift. And as I observed her, I had aha moments like I was connecting my own dots through her experience. And it was so beautiful because as she was expanding, I was connecting. And so we became stronger and stronger together in this really beautiful dance of the masculine and the feminine. And that's how I understood what, purpose and what I was doing here. And all of a sudden, the past, it all made sense. To the point one day, and I'm 57, so about a year ago, I said, oh, I get it. My first 56 years were preparation for what I'm about to do right now. It just became clear that that was the case. And so life has taken this meaning. And it doesn't mean that you've arrived and you're in this platform now. And so, the dirty water doesn't touch you. It doesn't mean that at all. We have moments, we have highs, we have lows. What matters, though, is that we see it. We actually see it when it shows itself. And now we have tools to return to that other place where we want to be. And so the trajectory back, the process back, and how we get there, it's easier, it's shorter, it's easier, you know? And so that has been the experience, but it's really been observing her shift because she, and I don't know if you have experienced the same thing, she would feel it in her body and would explain it. And I would generalize it in my end. And she was like, no, let me tell you the ABC of what's going on in my body right now. And that gave us so much wisdom and so much understanding.
Yeah, I know that quite well. It's such a visceral feeling. I mean, it is way beyond just the emotional landscape of how it presents, which I have to say, I mean, really shifting, growing, learning to love yourself, learning to support the ones that you love, all of that has this level of forgiveness that needs to occur, right? But especially, I'll say, Rocio, when you talked about, you knew that moment of when you took those glasses off was you learned to love yourself. That is a huge moment of just learning forgiveness. And this book has that as such a bold theme, not as something fluffy or performative, but more just as a radical act of reclaiming your own energy and learning how to love yourself again, how to love life again.
Yes.
Do you feel like, I mean, I know all the themes in the book are important, but do you feel like forgiveness is one of the biggest themes in order to be able to move forward?
You know, is Tansy, is you cannot live one without the other one. So you need to have awareness and you need to understand how it works for you to really accept that you need to use forgiveness. And to go out, you need to have gratitude for what happened in the past. And then when you begin to do all that, you need to use intention, because intention is what is going to take you to, okay, I'm going to see it. And my intention to go to the past is going to be to heal and doesn't need to be difficult. So is these 5 things that you don't use it, we put it in the book linear to try to teach everyone how to use it. But at one point you begin to take them and you do your recipe. But definitely, when you forgive, you reclaim everything, all your energy for you, and it's so yummy. Because instead of thinking, oh, because my mother, my dad, society, no, forget it. It's, all of those is for you to create, to really expand who you are and to put your energy in, okay, now and what I'm going to create for the future. So your experience is really more empowered
Mm.
and clear.
When we first got started with this path, and really it was because Rocio was searching for forgiveness. So certainly it was what she needed at the time. But going back to Rocio's answer, I seconded. It's like you have a toolbox, and there are jobs that all it requires is the screwdriver. That's it. That's all you needed to solve the problem. And frankly, there's a few, you have 5 jobs in line that are all you need is a screwdriver. So you use it, and it feels that that's the only thing you need. But you have other things in the toolbox just in case you need other things. And awareness is gigantic. Gratitude, oh my goodness. The way the way we explain the 5 lessons, which are awareness, gratitude, forgiveness, acceptance, and intention. The best way we describe it is like in a 3-stage process. Awareness is when you see, you see. And once you see, you cannot unsee, right? It's like, are there things about me I want to change? It's really the question that it drives you to. And most often, there are always things you can change if you so choose to. And if the answer is yes, then the tools are gratitude, forgiveness, and acceptance. Almost always. There are many, many, many more. We're generalizing into these 3 because those were the ones that we found to be most powerful for us in our journey. And you are so right, Tansy. It's about reclaiming your energy. It's all about energy. Gratitude is about creating this powerful force within you that expands anything that it's not light and beautiful all the way out. So it fills you with energy. Forgiveness, the moment you realize that you're giving energy to the past, to people, to situations, to whatever, to thoughts, and you say, I want my energy back. What do I need to do? Forgive. I was joking the other day with someone is, oh my gosh, I forgive now almost everything because I know that all I'm really doing is recharging my battery. And so why would I not? The moment, right? We have our smartphones, and as soon as we see that it goes down to a certain level, we're connecting it again. For me, that's forgiveness. You want to recharge? Forgive. Figure out what you need to forgive. And most often than not, as we know, it is ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
The moment you start forgiving yourself, my gosh, possibilities open up. And then once you do those two, acceptance kind of flows because you're essentially realizing I can be water. And I can be a solid sometimes, I can be a liquid, I can be a vapor, I can be a gas. But I'm just going to flow through life and I'm not going to fight everything or anything for that matter. And it reminds me of Mother Teresa once says, don't invite me to an anti-war rally. I don't want to add energy to the very same thing that I am fighting. I want to add energy to its counterpart, to that which is going to counteract. And what counteracts war? Peace. It is the only thing, it is the only energy that can go against war. And so now,
it's peace inside of us.
Inside each of us. And then the last stage is once you recuperate all this energy, well, what do you want to do with it? Well, I want to live the most intentional life that I can dream of. And that's different for you, for us, for anyone who's listening, because your dreams are yours and only yours, and they don't necessarily look like anyone else's dreams. And so that's it. See it, change it, do something with that new reclaimed energy.
You know, as you're talking about energy, you're talking about these stages, and you're talking about these emotions. That reminded me in the book, here, I'll show it here, the orchid, all right? In the book, chapter is 17, and it's the chapter on awareness. I love how you have the chart of the spectrum of inner growth because that really breaks it down. As I was reading and I was going through, I thought to myself, oh, this is so interesting. Now I've seen charts like this before when it comes to what what emotions translate into energetic frequencies and vibrations and where that is on a certain scale, right? But this was a really great connection of what stage you're in. And that was what I want to highlight. You talk about forgiveness and you talk about acceptance. Originally, when I hear the word, I'm in acceptance, I automatically think, oh, I've become. And the reality is no, I'm still in learning. I'm still learning the process of accepting so that I can learn to let go and I can learn to just move forward and now move up into the becoming and the being of that representation. And so as you, the listener, reads the book, check out chapter 17, the spectrum of inner growth. That chart is so incredibly helpful to also see what energetic vibration you're at so that you know, oh, maybe I do have more growth that I need to do than I thought that I did, versus, oh, I'm doing pretty good.
And Tansy, thank you so much. It's available in the web page in theorchidbook.com.
As well.
They can see it there if you want, or I can send it to you and you can put it here in the podcast. But the most important part is remember, for some things, probably you are in the top. And for other things, you have still to work on. Because probably you are a fantastic something, but something else is like, okay, I need to work out in this. And that's the point, to see that it's a continue work, that it can be super easy if we know more or less about, okay, where is my goal? And my goal is to really flow with life. Okay, perfect. Or wherever is the goal of any person here. In my case, I love joy. So, for example, I'm gonna go to a comedy club to study to make more jokes because for me that's light up my day. And not everyone is gonna say, "Wow, that's crazy," but it's like I need to find the joy in everything that I do. So that is an example.
Mm.
There's something really important and critical for us to share with the listener. And I think they've heard this many times, but it's important to remind. We must remove the judgment from this table, right? When you look there and you say, oh, today I was being this, and so I was in the flow and that was great. Oh, damn it. But I was not so good at, no, there is no good or bad. There is no positive or negative. There just is. There are experiences. But the awareness takes us to then the understanding of where do I really want to be? Not out of judgment, but because I believe that in this other place, there's more for me to experience, or there is a better way to live and experience my life. And so it was really critical. And this is something that we applied throughout the entire book, Tansy. We must have read the book maybe another 10, 12 times, looking for places in which somehow judgment had sneaked in. It was really important for us. And in fact, going back to Mary, there was a scene that we had left it there. And we're like, oh no, Mary is being judgmental. And we caught it and removed it and so on. But it was really important because the orchid is a place where you are loved unconditionally. It doesn't matter who you are, what you did, where you come from. In fact, that is the purpose of the place. And that's how we want people to begin seeing their lives. Because otherwise, we stay in shame and guilt, and shame and guilt are such low vibrations. And when you are in shame and guilt, you see the world, it's dark. But if we get out of that, then we start seeing the beauty of even in the chaos that is the world.
Mm.
And we don't judge it. And, it reminds me of there's a great story of a man on a cross that, as he was being murdered, he looks around and says, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And it's like, wow, right? And so no judgment, just pure forgiveness, pure bliss, pure understanding, pure acceptance that there is a reason behind all of this, even if we don't see it.
That reminds me of a scene in the book when Stephanie, they just had dinner and was it dinner or breakfast? I forget what time of the day it was. They were eating, and Stephanie got really triggered and she got up and she left quickly and she headed out into the wooded area. And she was the one with the body dysmorphia and the body issues and the sexual abuse. And she came out and she vomited because that was her go-to for helping to stay herself to stay thin. And when she stood up and turned around, Mary was standing there staring at her. And when you talk about the judgment, I immediately thought to myself, I wonder what Mary's going to say. And all Mary did was open her arms and embraced her. And I just thought to myself, that is so beautiful. I'm even getting chills as I recount
Me
it.
too.
It was so beautiful of just that reminder, that example of we don't need to judge. We just need to meet somebody where they're at the place that they're at that time. And then what Mary did was she stood back and she literally put the empowerment back into Stephanie's hands and said, I have the tools to help you. Will you allow me? And I thought that was absolutely beautiful to have as an example of how we can be compassionate, caring people, especially around people where it's easy to judge their actions and behaviors.
There was something, that scene there's so many Stephanie scenes that are really powerful. And yes, I go back to when we were writing them and how we were experiencing each one of the women. And, but I wanted to say the moment that we understood that love is the most powerful force in the world,
Yes.
then all you want to do is apply love in every single situation. And love takes, right? We generalize it, but love takes many different forms. A kind ear, just listening, is love. It's what you just described as to how Mary embraced her. And there's another scene in which a woman is having a really difficult time. And the next day, Mary comes to the group, and of course, everyone is speaking about that's normally it happens in retreats, right? It's like, what happened to so and so, and where is she? And I don't see her here this morning. And Mary turns to them and says, "You do more for her by sending her love than by worrying about her." And it's not just, right? It's being intentional in the I send this person love. It is healing, it is powerful. And that was something that we wanted to make sure that was again and again at the Orchid, that love was present in everything. So, yeah.
Really is transformation. And the most important is to, when you read the book, this is a sanctuary that you can go from the comfort in your house and really be there with the women's. And the book is gonna talk to you. And really what we want is for everyone to experience what is really unconditional love.
Yeah.
And when you begin to experience, is something that you can achieve. Going back to that, I know how to love myself. And that's the most important part, because from there, when you love yourself and you put your boundaries and all that you need to do, then you move in a different way in this experience that is life.
Well, one thing that really stuck out to me and struck me quite hard was that this whole concept of just support and love and having that underlying premise of love being the main message here, that the emotional experiences of the characters weren't pushed away. They were honored, which is that example of love, right? Like they weren't pushed away. And, I'm sure I might bring up Stephanie later, but I'll talk about her one more time since we were right on her. Stephanie, who has this struggle with body dysmorphia and eating disorder. Even when she wasn't, quote unquote, talking in the book, the story would suddenly shift to something where maybe she mumbled something, or it would divulge some of her thoughts that she was having. It almost felt like this real life dialogue amongst women where some things are spoken, some things aren't, yet this story never pushed them away. They honored it, they embraced it. It was seen with recognition and saying, it's okay to be where you're at. Just allow love to come through for that transformation and growth.
When we were writing,
I feel emotional.
yeah.
No, really, is so incredible, because that's Tansy, what I experienced in that moment, that you love yourself, is that unconditional love. But if you don't know, because you didn't have the opportunity to grow up in a family or something, and you are looking for approval outside of your house, really, when you begin to experience, it's incredible that we can give that love to ourselves. Remember, society has been teaching us to look from outside. But then when we begin to find that is inside of us, oh my God, how incredible. It's like a really, you become light, and no one can turn your light all out. You see, it's like in the storm, anything can happen, but you are already, is I am power, I am love. And that in that moment is like a nothing can take that from you. So yes, that's why I'm emotional. Thank you.
We had we had finished a number of things were happening at the time. So many things were happening at the time because we were on absorption mode, experiencing everything, retreats, healers. We wanted for anything that we wrote about to be something that we had experienced deeply. We had finished reading a book about secrets and the impact that it has generationally when families keep secrets. We had also finished a retreat in which there was a symbolic fire in the center of the room in which we had to tell our secrets. And we had done that together. So part of what we wanted to capture in the book is it doesn't matter what happened to you. You don't have to hide it. Bring it out, because the sooner we heal that, the emotion behind it, the stronger you become. And so that's the essence. That's why what you mentioned, and yes, it is. Thank you, because whenever we hear it from someone else as they are experiencing it, it's so enriching and it just transports us there again. But that's why the women felt so comfortable. And that's why they can heal, because they feel so comfortable that they are not being judged, that everyone is welcoming, that it's okay to be who you are, all of you, in its entirety, not just the good parts that we want to hear, all of you. And so, yes, that's so wonderful.
Yeah. Well, as you were talking, it as you were talking, and then also with reading the book, I realized that there's so much ancient wisdom and modern psychology that is just beautifully and seamlessly woven together through the storylines, which is fabulous because it's easy, depending on where the person is when they're reading it, it's easy maybe for them to pick up certain points and resonate more with those. But I'm curious, especially for those who are struggling with loving themselves, with forgiving, with, acceptance and being uniquely who you are and putting yourself unapologetically out into the world. How can these two stories, the ancient wisdom and the modern psychology, how can they fuse together so that we can rewrite old patterns that maybe have kept us stuck? How can we bring them together? Maybe give an example from the book itself or just in general of how you use those two concepts to inspire.
Fantastic question.
It is a fantastic question. I think that had we tried to do that in a traditional self-help book, it would have been very difficult. Because normally what ends up happening is that as humans, as individuals, we start putting barriers up the moment somebody says, well, let me tell you how this science works, and let me tell you about this. And then you're almost going into the extremes of the argument, right? Science and religion, for the lack of better words. And that's why we opted for storytelling. Because here you don't have to really think about it. All you really need to do is continue to follow the story of these women. Just go along for a ride. And what ends up happening, and this is my best answer to your incredible question, what ends up happening is that exists, that wisdom of both the ancient and the modern, it's inside of us. We live it on a daily basis, but somehow we've been trained to separate the two. And there's this dialogue that has been at odds with one another, which I think they're not at odds at all, but that one day we'll come to realize it again. And maybe, 10, 20, 30,000 years ago, it was clear that they were not at odds because science and spirituality or religion, but spirituality lived with each other seamlessly. I think that's inside of us. And that's why we opted for the story, because somehow that happens. And we created the moments in which it was a part lesson, but then part exercise. And then we left empty pages so that in case you wanted to experience your own experience and kind of write about the thoughts that you were having, you could do that. In fact, if you listen to the audiobook, what we did is put a little bit of music at the end of a certain chapter so that you would have to pause and kind of, just
To everything to sync
to integrate. Yeah.
information, to integrate. And that's why it's a book that some people can read it in 2 days, and other takes longer because it's like a let me sync the information that I'm getting. And then they come back and it's like, okay, now I understand. And they are understanding, they call it a band-aid for the soul, for example. Or, I remember having another say, I remember having like a draw that I put all the things that I don't want to see. And after reading the book, I discovered that the draw doesn't exist. And is this dialogue that we need to have with ourselves in a safe space. And when you begin to really understand that it's safe to be you, wow.
Well, and let's be honest, humans and our evolution, we are just attuned to storytelling, right? Like, I
Yes.
think research and science is beautiful. I think that all of these other modalities of helping us to understand are helpful and amazing to have. But the reality is we as humans relate to storytelling. And I think that we can wrap our brains around it better. I think that we're emotional. We are emotional energies. We
Yeah.
need to have storytelling so that we can emotionally connect. That is what builds the connection and the world around us. So I love that you did that. And I took notice because at first I thought, oh, I wonder if this is going to have like a lot of action steps kind of infused into it. But the reality was it was a story with subconscious suggestions of just here's what you could do. And I noticed how you left certain spaces where you could write and reflect. And I thought that is beautiful. It is not a do this, which I know when I'm reading a book, I have a rebel inside of me. And I'm like, no, I don't wanna. I don't wanna. But when I was reading and I got to those chapters, I thought, this is beautiful because I have so many things going through my own head. I could simply take that moment and just be.
Thank you. Thank
Yes,
you. Thank
yes,
you. It's
yes,
incredible, all your reflections.
yes, quite
Really.
profound.
Yes.
I was going to mention we've had so many interesting feedback. There was a woman that said, as I was experiencing and reading the book, I remembered for the first time something that happened to me that I had blocked. And so we've had all of these really. There's another a therapist that said, I am recommending it to my patients because they now come back to me and say, I now understand you better. I now understand what you're doing with me and the conversations that we're having. And so really it's a piece that is additive to anything else that you are doing and experiencing in your life. And what it seems that it's doing is, and going back to your point about storytelling and the reason why we wanted to make it as a novel is I'm just reading other people's stories, and we learn so much from other people and what they're experiencing and what they're thinking and how they react to things. And so that observation really becomes inner knowledge at some point, and not because it's new, it's always been inside of you. It just points the finger at that one thing that you already knew, but really have not spent too much time thinking about because we are on automatic pilot, right? Doing, earning because we need to live. And that's why at the bottom of our chart is surviving. When we are in survival, rarely do we have the time to start thinking about, well, I want to be a better person. right? It's just, my gosh, how do I eat?
Yes.
How do I cover, where's the rooftop that I need to have to sleep? And so storytelling is powerful, and we found it to be healing. We didn't quite, Tansy, when we set out to write this, we didn't know. We just
The
trusted.
journey, really.
We just trusted. And what we said was, if it changes one life, it would have been all worth it. Because my gosh, why not?
What a privilege.
What a privilege. And we're humbled on a daily basis by people and comments such as the ones that you are sharing with us. So we thank you.
Mm. As a couple, you've created this powerful soul-centered piece of artwork, is really what it is. And I'm sure that that wasn't always easy. I would love to hear about what it was like co-creating the orchid as a partner, as partners, not just in writing, but also in life. Like how was that working together on this?
Mm. Tansy, it's of course is something that a lot of people is like, how you do it?
Why?
Why is this is not normal? Really, for
24
what?
hours a day? Are you
Why?
crazy?
What do you like him so much? And it's like, I agree with all the questions, but imagine how we are being conditioned to think that women needs to be in that direction and men needs to be in the other direction. So what can I tell you is we met each other in 25 years ago, and he was my boss when I met him in a company in Mexico City. So at the beginning, I what I saw on him was something incredible, somebody really humble who has a vision there in that time. So I was really amazed of what he was creating. And since then I have such a respect for what he was doing, because I didn't have a boss before that was an understanding, like a amazing, because normally the boss is like no, no, I'm gonna take all the credit. You're gonna do whatever I say. It's like a non-collaboration. So when I met him, he was more in, no, no, it's your voice, you do the presentation. And it's like a more, let me help you to shine. Okay. So this since the beginning was like that. We get in love, and after that we became a couple, and we have kids and all, we travel. But we stopped working together. But we always want to see if we can come back to do something together. And at the beginning, when we begin to do this, of course, was not easy to align ourselves, because he was really in another vibration and I was in another vibration, but I was like a coming and coming and breaking. I was like a breaking the mold, really. So, and I have a ego or a limiting character who has a really a strong personality, who used to manage my life. So to really solve that part of me was with a lot of love and really listen that part and heal. When I heal that part, really our relationship become better. But was difficult. We have to have conversations. And then at one point it's like this responsibility that is not him who needs to give my approval. The approval needs to be from me. And but society tells you your couple needs to do the best for you. He needs to be amazing. And then all these on, how you say, on totally crazy ideas about what a couple,
Unreal ideas.
unreal ideas of but he needs to do a picnic in the sunset. It's like all these Instagram ideas that they are not real. So at one point, it's like, okay, my expectations, what are for us? And I really understand that I don't need to compare my relationship with no one. It's mine to do and to really respect him the way he is and understand that whatever he likes to do or do, it's okay. But we have this profound respect. We understand that everything that I say is with a good faith and love. So that's like a basic things that has been helped for us to have a good communication, be transparent. At one point, of course, we have secrets. We talk about it because we want to take our relationship to another level. But believe me, was not easy to really sit down for 2 years to really do this. And then remember, I was passing for all the turmoil that feels like I was in a constant storm. No,
Storm, in a
a
constant
storm.
storm.
Yes. So of course he was like who I'm speaking with Rocio or with the other
The alter
Rocio,
ego.
the alter ego. And of course he was really, we were really wise to understand our limits and say, I need a break right now. So is this knowledge that I've been having about myself that helped me to really communicate better.
Mm.
So I'm tired. I don't know to do that. I need help. Is I did a mistake. Please forgive me. All these small things that make a communication more clear and better, I suppose. What do you want to add?
Well, for sure,
Tell the truth.
for sure, radical responsibility. There was a lot of respect, as Rocio mentioned.
Only the truth.
A few things that were
I want
challenging,
to be a comedian at one point.
a few things that were challenging. I spent a lot of times in corporate America. And so I had training in business, in meetings, and so on. And there were times when she felt that she wasn't good enough because she lacked that training. And of course, but once you become aware that that's what's happening, then you can make up for it. So she started enrolling in different courses to grow, to expand. So there was that. Um, there was always also a lot of respect for what each one of us brings to the table. I am fantastic at certain things that she is not so good at. And she is incredible and fantastic at certain things that I am not so good at. But this is no different. It's funny. We are so accustomed to working in teams in our sort of professional environment. And then when we come home in our families, it's almost like we don't treat them the same. And we put those rules out, we throw those rules out the window. But if you start looking at your family and each individual member and evaluating in the same way in which you evaluate people at your office, if you will, then you start to see the beauty and the amazing skills that each one has. And I always used to say, if you're about to cross a raging river and there's 6 of you, the first thing you ask, who's the best swimmer? Right? You don't send the one who doesn't swim to cross the river. You send the one who is the most capable. And so when you start to look at people and at life in that fashion, then you always see the amazingness that is inside each one of us. And trust me, there was one time we had written the Jennifer story as a widow, not as a divorcee. And we had finished the story. And Rocio, normally what happens, Tansy, is that she gets a download in a dream and wakes up the next morning and is like, okay, are you ready? This is what happens when she said this project needs to be about women. It was a dream. In this particular case, her dream was, oh, Jennifer is not a widow, she's a divorcee. And we had finished the chapter. We had spent maybe 3, if not a month, polishing it.
Yes.
And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And that was not a fun morning at home where we were discussing it. But of course, the training kicks in and you're like, okay, what is this trying to teach us? How important is this? And then eventually is you're so absolutely right. Because a much larger portion of the world is experiencing this trauma right now that sometimes is divorce. And not to downplay the other, of course, but it seemed like it was much more prevalent in our circles than the depth of a partner was. And so, and those were examples, but it was always a lot of love, a lot of respect, radical responsibility for our feelings. So, and by then we were well trained. So when something showed up, like an emotion, we're like, give me a moment. Something is triggering. I need to go and work on this and I'll be back. And, sometimes it took a few hours. Never, now it doesn't take a day. It's hours, minutes and hours. And so that's how it was. But yeah, there were ups and downs, but I
In
don't,
25 years, fights has been from 1 week to less. We make it less and less.
during the time we were writing
Yes.
the book, Tansy, there was one day we're like, oh my gosh, that was our fight. And it was like a disagreement for 3 minutes. And we're like, wow. Even that became a fun part of the process of how we were evolving as we were writing the book. We were becoming that. It was almost like a graduation or another of many graduations that we have been having as we become better at this thing that we call life.
And Tansy, remember, we continue to have this conversation of, are we okay together?
Yeah.
This adds to to us, because really is a choice. And I really love what I have with him. And is something that anyone needs to consider their relationship. It's like a we add to the situation, and is that's why it's so personal,
Yeah.
but it's possible.
Mm. I have to say, Jennifer's was one of my favorite stories because I know many friends, uh, family members, people that I've worked with that have had similar stories. And I'll tell you, as I read Jennifer's story, I could feel all the anger for her ex-husband and the situation all over again, thinking about certain friends that I was frustrated for at that point. I loved Jennifer's story. And actually, through the story, so I had a newfound respect for Stephanie and then Jennifer. And as she was starting to grow, I'm like, oh, I can't wait to hear Jennifer's story. And it didn't disappoint. So I love how it turned out. I think that you made the right decision, even though I don't know what the other one sounded like. So I
Right,
can't
of
say.
course.
Right, yeah. So before we talk about where to find you, where to get the book, I want you to leave the listeners with just one little notion. If the book, The Orchid, had a message that it wanted to whisper to the reader,
Mm.
to the reader's heart, what would that be?
Man,
Yes, please.
I believe is the dedication of the book. And I would like to read it, if I may. It says, to all who journey through these pages, may you be inspired to rewrite your own narrative and live a life of love, free of limitations, and enriched by the knowledge that you are powerful beyond belief.
Absolutely beautiful. Beautiful. So this has been an incredible conversation. I just adore both of you. I love your energy and the mission that you are both on. This is so beautiful. Where can listeners step deeper into your work? Where can they find the book? And how can they connect with you more intimately?
Yes.
The best place to do it is through our website. It is theorchidbook.com, theorchidbook, theorchidbook.com. And really, through there, you can go to all of our social media handles.
All
You
the
can learn,
platforms
you can
with,
write, you can
yes,
write to us directly. There's email there. It gives you guides for the platforms that have the book. The book is available in English and Spanish, electronically, physically, and in audiobook. And the two audiobooks are really sensational, read by these amazing actresses.
Mhm.
And it does not disappoint, just like the written book. But really, the written book is important because it becomes kind of a live manual. And you'll find yourself putting notes there that are very personal and very relevant. So it really becomes something that hopefully you'll go back to again and again.
And I will have all of those links down in the show notes as always, so that you can easily access all of their social media and their platforms to get your hands on the book and to get in deeper with these lovely human beings. Do you have any last words that you would like to lay on the hearts of the listeners for today?
yes. The most important of all, have fun. Really connect with your heart, and anything that bring you joy is, let's have fun. Come on. Let's change the energy in the world.
I believe that my experience as a human being on this planet will be enriched when everyone who is listening lives their life to the fullest. I want you to feel like you belong, that you're happy, that you're in control of your life,
That you
that
are
you
enough.
are in the flow, that you're enough. Because when you do, and you're vibrating, and that lighthouse that you are is shining bright and loud, I benefit from that, and the whole world benefits from that. So please do read our book, and may it enlighten you to be the best version of yourself that you can be.
Mm. Rocio and Angel, thank you so much for being here today. And thank you so much for spreading your love, your joy, your heart, and your gift.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for the space, Tansy.